Our IWCS webinar series event is hosted by the International Cable and Connectivity Symposium. I am Ed Fenton, a cable industry advisor working with the IWCS team. As Sammy said, if you have questions, please use the question and answer box on the bottom right of your screen to post a question anonymously. If you wish to contact the presenter or IWCS after the presentation, you will be given the contact points at the end of the webinar. Please note that IWCS does not distribute the presentation slides from either our conference sessions or these webinars. However, please feel free to contact the presenter directly, and they will respond individually to you. Today, we welcome Katelyn Walck of the Chemours Company from Delaware, USA, who will be presenting her paper on Extreme ECA, a new class of perfluoroplastics resins. Katelyn Walck is the North American market development leader for fluoroplastics with Chemours. Katelyn holds a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Villanova University and joined DuPont as a research and development chemist in 2008. She became a member of the Teflon Fluoroplastics Technical Service Team in 2012 and has supported the development and commercialization of the Extreme ECA product line since its market introduction. A Chemours employee since the company's spinoff from DuPont in 2015, Katelyn currently supports business development for Teflon, Tefzel, and Extreme fluoroplastic resins. Katelyn, we welcome you to present at today's IWCS webinar series event.
Thanks, Ed. Good morning. My name is Katelyn Walck, as Ed said, and I'm a business development leader with Chemours Fluoroproducts, the recent spinoff from DuPont. With me in the room here today is John Netta, who is a technical service senior consultant here at Chemours with over 40 years of experience in the wire and cable industry. My background is primarily in melt processable fluoroplastics, specifically PFA and ECA, which is what I am here to talk to you about today. As a leader in market-driven science with a 40-year history in the wire and cable industry, our Teflon business was approached back in 2009 to respond to an industry need for a 300°C resin that would have the ability to withstand the extreme heat and cold found in oil and gas production and geothermal applications. As many of you know, the long-standing upper use temperature limit in fluoroplastic materials has historically been 260 degrees Celsius. So what exactly is ECA? What am I going to talk to you about today? ECA is a new high-temperature perfluoroplastic material known as an Epitaxial Co-Crystalline Alloy, or ECA, and is recognized by UL as a new class of perfluoroplastic material with an upper continuous use temperature of 300 degrees C. Much like FEP, PFA, and PTFE are classified as different materials under UL, ECA is its own class of perfluoroplastic material. In addition to the highly beneficial properties found in typical perfluoropolymers, ECA's unique thermal properties allow it to withstand harsh environments at high temperatures for extended periods of time, breaking the 260-degree ceiling of traditional materials. So that's an example of what the material is, but why was it developed? I mentioned back in 2009, a wire and cable company came to us with this need, but holistically, starting back in the 1930s with the discovery of PTFE, fluoroplastic technologies have evolved over time to meet the growing needs of many diverse industries, oil and gas being one of them, the semicon industry, aerospace industry. And with current technologies driving the need for materials that can survive extreme environments and perform at high temperatures upwards of 300 degrees, it was clear that a new perfluoroplastic material needed to be developed. And this is what led to the invention of ECA in 2011. Why is ECA different than other materials? Unlike other fluoroplastic materials, extreme ECA undergoes a unique coupling and crystallization effect when exposed to temperatures above 280 degrees Celsius. This effect is known as Epitaxial Co-Crystallization. This unique phenomenon is characterized by an increase in crystallinity via two distinct processes: growth within the crystal structure itself and end-to-end coupling of the molecular chain. At an MFR of 7, Extreme ECA 3000 was the first product developed in the ECA family of products. We have since introduced a full MFR range of materials to the Extreme product offering, designed to meet various molding and performance needs in many different applications. UL has recognized ECA with a yellow card for 300 degrees C, and which actually allows it to achieve the highest relative thermal index value in UL's plastics components database. ECA 3000 and 4000 have both earned this yellow card. ECA 2000, which is our newest material introduced into the product line, is pending certification. As I mentioned, in addition to ECA's high temperature properties, it also has the same beneficial properties you expect from a typical perfluoroplastic, with some properties that actually outperform other melt processable materials. Example here is ECA's superior abrasion resistance compared to PFA. So this is just one example of some properties where ECA actually exceeds other melt processable materials. So typical properties, it's melt processable with standard fluoroplastic equipment, extrusion, injection molding machines, excellent chemical and temperature resistance, low coefficient of friction, excellent electrical properties. Again, all of the kind of standard properties you come to expect from using a fluoroplastic material. Now I'm going to go into some detail and give some examples of ECA's unique properties and superior performance in extreme conditions. Unlike other fluoroplastics, extreme ECA doesn't break down during exposure to extreme heat for extended periods of time. In fact, in some instances, we've observed increased physical property performance after heat exposure. So how do we observe the mechanism behind this increase in performance? We can observe the co-crystallization phenomenon I described earlier by monitoring a drop in melt flow rate after heat exposure. Unexposed ECA, ECA 3000, for example, has an MFR of 7, which will drop to less than 1 following heat exposure. ECA 2000 and 4000 demonstrate similar trends when exposed. Interestingly enough, also unique to ECA is that typically an increase in crystallinity can lead to brittle or rigid material that can be prone to stress cracking. ECA actually, when exposed to heat, the MIC flex life of the material improves over time. Here is an example in ECA 4000, which actually demonstrates over 1,000% increase in flex life over 7 days after 7 days of 315 degrees C heat exposure. And what does this mean in an application? It means the longer life for components, and it means the possibility in wire and cable applications to reduce wall thickness while maintaining performance. One of the most interesting features of this material is that after almost 2 years of constant 315 degrees C heat exposure, there is virtually no change in tensile modulus. At the beginning of our development of this material, compression molded ECA plaques were placed in a 315 degree C air convection oven and sampled monthly for retention of physical properties. Though tensile and elongation measurements did gradually trend downward over time, the material shows limited drop in tensile strength and virtually no change in tensile modulus. It should also be noted that these thermal aging studies were performed at 315 degrees, which is 15 degrees above the continuous use temperature rating granted by UL. This limited drop in tensile and elongation is very impressive considering the conditions this material is being exposed to. Again, as I mentioned before, this material was initially developed for the wire and cable industry, so it was important that it maintain the same levels of electrical performance as incumbent fluoropolymer materials. And so I'll now give some examples of electrical performance for ECA. It has a dielectric constant similar to other melt processable perfluoroplastics and a dissipation factor that is lower than standard PFA, though not quite as low as PTFE, which is known to have some of the best electrical properties of any fluoroplastic material. And again, just like its retention of physical properties, after 14 months of 310 degrees C heat exposure, again, 10 degrees above its intended upper use temperature, ECA retained 97% of its electrical properties. While high temperature resistance and physical property retention are obviously critical properties for an insulating material, resistance to chemical exposure and permeation, chemical permeation, is paramount in many high temperature applications like downhole and geothermal. So we also have some data to share showing ECA's superior performance in chemical applications as well. So along with evidence of excellent general chemical and steam resistance, ECA's unique co-crystallization effect that I've mentioned a couple of times increases the permeation resistance of the material, giving it the ability to outperform some PTFEs and low permeation PFAs. An example shown here is exposure to concentrated HCl, hydrochloric acid, at elevated temperatures. HCl is a well-known permeant of fluoropolymers, and compared here to our Teflon PFA product line that is well known for having industry-leading permeation resistance, ECA actually performs as well or better than these leading materials. So we were even honestly surprised by the performance of ECA when compared to specifically our 951 HP Plus product line, which is known specifically for its resistance to permeation from HCl. Another example of ECA's resistance to gas permeation is shown here, shown to outperform both PTFE and, again, 951 HP Plus, both before and after exposure to heat. So you can see here the increase in relative permeation resistance compared to other industry-leading materials. And we have data that shows similar trends for nitrogen, for oxygen, and water vapor permeation as well. Over the last few years, we have done exhaustive research exposing ECA to different chemical systems at various temperatures and pressures, including hydrochloric acid, hydrofluoric acid, HF, sulfuric acid, ammonia, nitric acid, high-pressure steam, and diesel fuel at different temperatures and pressures. Like shown here is exposure to diesel fuel at 300 degrees Celsius and 5,000 psi for 2 weeks. Like all fluoropolymers, of course, ECA does show some limitations at certain temperatures and pressures in different exposure systems. But overall, we have observed a retention of physical properties in ECA that's unlike any other melt-processable fluoroplastic performing at these temperatures. So again, here you can see that in high-temperature, high-pressure exposure to diesel fuel, both ECA and ECA that has been exposed to extreme heat show little to no effect on tensile strength or modulus over the span of 2 weeks at pretty extreme conditions. So discussing properties, performance is all well and good, but what does this mean for applications? Where can we put these properties to use? Why is this beneficial specifically to the wire and cable industry? ECA, in the grand scheme of things, is still a relatively new material, but we have validated that it can be processed by all standard means of processing fluoropolymer material. So wire and cable extrusion, tubing, compression molding, injection molding, film and sheet extrusion, and transfer molding. It's also been successfully compounded with various fillers, like carbon fiber, carbon black, fiberglass, mica, Kevlar, ceramics, different colorants, and titanium dioxide. Based on what we have observed in this highly unique material, the industries we think would benefit most from its unique properties are applications specifically where high temperature performance is paramount and some degree of chemical resistance is also needed. The major industries that come to mind in instances like this are oil and gas, geothermal, the chemical processing or CPI industry, and pulp and paper production. Extreme ECA offers great potential to expand the range of current applications for perfluoroplastics, as well as open up opportunities in new and unexplored markets. From a wire and cable processing perspective, we see opportunities for new applications across a range of rheological requirements. The development of the ECA product family, again, which is the ECA 2000, 3000, and 4000, continues to show enhanced modulus retention, improved fatigue and permeation resistance, covering a wide range of melt flow needs, while continuing to be melt processable using standard operating conditions and standard fluoropolymer processing equipment. Some new applications that we've seen involve insulation ranging from as low as 2 to 10 mils on 40 gauge or 16 gauge wire up to 75 mils of insulation in larger downhole applications. We have seen industries and applications such as downhole submersible pumps, automotive block wire harnesses, data instrumentation cables, carbon-filled heat tracing cables, different carbon fiber compounds, and tubing have all shown to be promising vehicles for ECA and its unique properties. So here's some photos and some examples of ECA in some wire and cable applications. So it's an incredibly versatile material that can be used for heavy gauge data logging cables with up to, like I said, 75 mils of insulation. There's a couple photos here. And this is the ECA 3000 material. So this is the lower melt flow material for wire and cable applications around an MFR of 7. And then we have also used our ECA 4000 material with a melt flow of 14 for fine wire applications like thermocouple wiring, ranging from 2 to 15 mils of insulation. So a wide range of applications that we are seeing benefit from the properties that ECA brings to the table. So here's just a couple of, for in non-wire and cable applications. ECA has also been successfully, like I mentioned, compression molded, extruded into rods that can be machined into stock shapes, used as gaskets and sealing materials, as well as tubing. Here's a photo of a couple of different sizes of tubing made from ECA. So those are just a few examples of, just as it has in the past, I talked in the beginning about the need for new materials based on the performance needs of these different markets and different applications. And as it has in the past, new markets and increasingly demanding applications will continue to drive fluoroplastic technologies forward. And we personally are very excited to have Chemours, Teflon, and Extreme ECA be a part of that continued progress. And so one last plug here is that in addition to Extreme ECA, the Chemours company offers a wide array of materials and technical support that enable the wire and cable industries in many different ways, including Teflon FEP, PFA, PTFE, Testel, ETFE, Viton FKM, and Viton Free Flow. So those are all Chemours products. You may know them more with more familiarity as DuPont products, but they were part of our transition and spin into the Chemours company. So any questions about ECA or interest in any fluoroplastic material, we are your go-to team for those materials. So that is all I have, and so I'd like to now, I guess, pass it back to Sammy for questions. And between myself or John, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes. Picking up from here, thank you so much, Katelyn, for a great presentation. I'm going to take some questions from attendees, starting with our first question. For AWG 28-gauge applications, do you see ECA as a preferred insulation for high data rate, Category 8 type cables, or data center patch cords?
We don't really see, we haven't delved into the datacom industry with this material. This was mainly, it's not that I think we'll do a good job, yes, but we haven't tested it out to that.
Okay. Next question. How does ECA compare to traditional FEP insulations in data transmission performance at high frequencies?
Once again, I mean, we really haven't tested it out in comparison to FEP because our projected audience for this type of material was more for downhole motor windings and that type of applications. It's something that we probably want to look at in the future. We've just been so busy doing the others and trying to keep those customers happy and trying to get the material off the ground, basically.
Oh, okay. Next is how does ECA perform in cable or other fire tests such as NFPA 262 plenum or ASTM E84 Steiner tunnel smoke and flame propagation relative to other fluoropolymers?
It performs as good as all of our other fluoropolymers.
Okay. And next, what is the benefit in comparison to PTFE?
It's not extrudable. You know, with PTFE, the biggest downfall there is that, you know, you're relegated to a slow speed and a certain length, whereas with the copolymers, you're not hampered by any of that. I mean, you can run continuous lengths, and the speeds, of course, are greater than if you're trying to produce PTFE.
Okay. Next, what is the percent crystallinity of the ECA material?
The percent crystallinity is going to vary based on exposure to heat. So prior to heat exposure, you're going to see crystallinity that is somewhere between PFA and PTFE. And then after heat exposure, you can see upwards of a 30 to 40% increase in crystallinity.
Okay. Next, has there been any high voltage evaluation of ECA? How would you categorize HV performance versus PTFE or FEP?
It's very, very good. It does. Some of our customers have told us that they see some of the biggest voltages that they've seen with this material. I can't give out specifics, but it's all related to the what they're trying to do with it.
Okay. At this point, I see no more further questions from the field, so I'm just going to suggest if there are any further questions, please submit them now. I'm about to move into our wrap-up here. Okay, looks like we're clear from questions. Katelyn, thank you very much for presenting this very interesting and important topic today. Please note the contact points being shown should you wish to contact Katelyn after today's event. Each of these IWCS webinar series presentation events are recorded and will be archived on the IWCS.org website. It normally takes up to 2 weeks for these to be posted. The IWCS webinar series will conduct presentation events on a monthly basis. Webinar events will take place on the third Friday of each month at 10:30 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. Our next scheduled webinar event will be Friday, July 15th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern USA time. Each of you will be receiving an announcement for the event a few weeks prior. Please feel free to share our announcements with your colleagues so that they can join in and register as well. For over 60 years, the IWCS International Cable and Connectivity Symposium has been the recognized leader showcasing new technologies in cable and connectivity products, processes, and applications. Our next annual conference will take place on Sunday, October 2nd through Wednesday, October 5th, 2016, in Providence, Rhode Island, USA. Please visit our website at iwcs.org for more event details. In just a moment, you will see a brief survey so that you can provide us your feedback and comments on today's event so that we can further improve this webinar series for you. Thank you for participating, and this concludes today's event.